Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be reviewing something a little bit different from usual. This is the S.H.Monsterarts Blue Eyes White Dragon. Now the S.H.Monsterarts line, a lot like the S.H.Figuarts line, is a posable figurine line, and they are scaled quite a bit differently to Figuarts. Like, they are a bit bigger than, say, like the 1/12 scale action figures, but they are much smaller than their movie or show counterparts, because the Monsterarts are usually things like Godzilla, Monster Hunter, in this case Yu-Gi-Oh! And all of these monsters are much larger than life, and this scale is quite a bit different to what they would actually be. It's more so just that all of the monsters are scaled to be relatively around the same size, so they're like playable in-hand toys. And this is the first time I've ever looked at an S.H.Monsterarts. It's the first time I think I've ever owned one. And it's a bit special because it's the Blue Eyes White Dragon. It basically means that Tamashii Nations have the license for Yu-Gi-Oh! Figures. They will be doing a Red Eyes Black Dragon. I am curious to see what they'll do after this. Maybe they'll do Dark Magician, maybe they'll do actual Figuarts, figures of the duelists, and then you can do more humanoid figures as well. But only time will tell. Anyway, this is the Blue Eyes White Dragon, one of my favourite monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! I even ran a Blue Eyes deck for quite a long time. And the box art on this figure looks absolutely amazing. One of the big things that I've seen from the S.H.Monsterarts line is how posable things like necks and tails are. They really try and make an organic looking creature. And so I'm really keen to see the sort of posability on this and see what we are getting into. So taken out of the box, here's what we're dealing with. You can see the Blue Eyes White Dragon in all his glory, as well as the accessories it comes with. So we get a full stand as well as 3 stand arms. Effectively, you only need the cradle to hold up the dragon itself. The other arms are just there as support for the wings, depending on how dynamic the pose is that you're making. And you can also pose it to stand up on its own weight anyway. The extra stand arm is to hold the Burst Stream of Destruction effect part, because that doesn't actually like click into the mouth or anything. You just pose it sort of individually, sort of floating in midair. And that's pretty much all you get with this. I've heard that the Monsterarts line are pretty light on accessories, especially lately, but Blue Eyes doesn't really need much else than this, so it's perfectly fine. But anyway, taken out of the box and put on a display, here is the Blue Eyes White Dragon. It's a very simple pose, just so you can see the figure itself, and it looks really, really good. There is an incredible amount of paint on this figure. Another thing that is slightly different from the Figuarts line, at least the modern Figuarts line, because they use a lot less paint than they used to. But all of the paint and detail work on this Blue Eyes is absolutely incredible. There's multiple shades of white and off-white, as well as blue accents throughout, shading the figure, and it looks absolutely incredible. The colors are so beautiful. The pearlescent finish catches the light so perfectly. It just looks amazing, even in the most stock standard pose I could think of, just to do a quick 360. And it's one of the most gorgeous posable figures I've ever seen. Genuinely incredible. Just looks perfect from all angles. I didn't notice any paint errors on mine, and all of the fine detail work, especially on the face, looks pretty much anime perfect. And it's good. It's really, really, really good. Before we move any further, I'll do a quick sizing comparison. So here is the Blue Eyes Monsterarts up against the Blue Eyes Figure Eyes model kit. Now the model kit is an amplified version, so it's a bit of a redesign, but you can see they're roughly around the same size, and that's the sort of rough scale that a lot of posable figures, especially Yu-Gi-Oh! Figures, go around. Like, it's this sort of just playable in your hand sort of scale. It's pretty much non-scale, I'm pretty sure. If it is scaled, please correct me in the comments. But yeah, that's how it stacks up against the Figure Eyes kit. They're pretty much the same size, and they both look fantastic. But we'll get right into posability. So there are multiple ball joints throughout the neck and head, which allows for a really good amount of natural posability with the neck. And there is a ball joint at the bottom jaw, allowing it to move up and down, as well as sort of a bit of side to side. The tongue can move, the arms can move out that far, and there's a hinge at the elbow and wrist, so you can get a decent amount of movement out of it. Similar thing with the legs, just ball joint hinges and a pivot at the ankle. And the tail has got a crazy amount of ball joints, allowing for some incredibly natural curves and poses with the tail. The wings are on a hinge and separated by 3 different segments. You can spread them out to make big fanned out wing poses as well as closed poses. They are on hinges, so you can sort of pose them around a bit. They don't just go side to side. And there are a few ball joints in the torso, allowing for some good bending and rotations. Everything feels pretty solid. Nothing's too loose, except for one of the wings. It's not as tight as I'd like it to be, but it still holds a pose no problem. And generally just pretty easy to play with. It's another one of those figures that I feel confident in moving around, which is really good. You need something like that with something as hefty as this. And as sort of simple it is design-wise, it needs to be able to move and play around as you like to get the most out of the figure and to get the most out of this sculpt. And you can pretty much get all of the poses that they have as the promo material on the back of the box just fine. I didn't really have any issues with it. And it is nice being able to pose it with or without the stand, and it just works. So we'll quickly just chuck up a few poses so you can see what you can get out of this figure. It is a little bit weird lining up the stand arms to support the wings, but it is easy enough once you get the hang of it. It's just a matter of how you place the wings into the stand arms itself. But I was able to keep the blue eyes in multiple poses, and for it to be able to hold those poses without much issue. A lot of the aerial poses, I basically kept it there for a couple of hours just to see if anything would sag or if the arms could stand up to it. And it was good. One of the arms was a little bit weak out of the box, but you can just tighten those up, no problem. And the burst stream of destruction effect part is really nice. There is some minor assembly, like doing the Kamehamehas with the S.H.Figuarts lines, except not nearly as many parts to play around with. And this effect part is quite large. I thought it was going to be the same size as those Kamehameha effect parts, if not just like an exact recolor, but it is not. It's actually a brand new sculpt, and it looks really, really good. It feels powerful, and besides the stand arm plugging into it, it looks fantastic. It is pretty obvious when you see it. And when you've got the stand arm with the ball and the stand arms holding up the wings and the stand holding up the body itself, it is a bit clunky to look at. It's cool and there's not much other way around it, but it is just a bit weird. And the burst stream of destruction effect is compatible with the same sort of 3mm plug that all the Dragon Ball figures have for Kamehamehas lately, so you can connect it to the legendary Super Saiyan Goku and have him doing a sort of lightning heavy charged Kamehameha, which is kind of cool. And you can probably do the same thing with any of the other Dragon Ball Figuarts that have that same plug. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It is a really, really fun figure to play around with. Had a lot of fun posing it around, seeing what it could and could not achieve. And generally, I think it gets the job done. There's any limitations it does have are mainly things that you can probably fix yourself, like any looseness of joints. There are ways around that. And it is just a really, really solid, feels good, looks good, and I'm keen to see what they do with the red eyes. I am also more keen to see what they do for the future of the line, because there's a lot of potential here, and I hope that they can deliver on all of it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I will see you all next time.